Hello, everyone. This is Joe Armstrong, and we're just getting started here. We've got a bunch of people joining right now for our first webinar covering Power 8. So let's just wait one more minute. It's been a busy morning trying to get everybody lined up for this. But I think we have everything set to start. And we've got a pretty good crowd for our first IBM I session here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone. This is Joe Armstrong, and this is the May version of the Power Systems Virtual User Group webinars. Today, we are doing our first IBM I webinar, but before we get into that, I just want to say thanks to everybody that I saw at TechU. It was great meeting people. I really like meeting the people that joined the webinars there, and if we missed each other, I'm really sorry. Maybe next time. But the next TechU is in October. So if you weren't able to get to this one, plenty of lead time for the next one. Next TechU, October 15th through the 19th in Hollywood, Florida. So we're back in Florida again. So with that, let's go to our webinar today. So as I mentioned, IBM I. This is the 30th anniversary for IBM I. I actually missed it by a year. I started it with IBM in 1989, so I started a year after the AS400 first rolled out. But it's been just an awesome platform. And I've been doing these webinars for 11 years now. And, you know, it started out as the AIX virtual user group, and it really covered, you know, the power systems and AIX mostly then. Over those years, you know, we started an IBM I version. It didn't last very long, and I've had a lot of requests from people to, you know, is there an IBM I version of these? Can we do IBM I stuff? So this year, I was asked by some people internally if I would host some IBM I specific sessions. You know, a lot of this stuff applies to all the operating systems because it's all power system stuff, but to do some IBM I specific ones. And this is the first IBM I specific one from the Power Systems Virtual User Group. And to kick it off, we got a great topic to kick it off. This will work out really well because Dan Sunt is going to tell us about IBM I future trends and directions. And I've seen Dan give this topic once before, and it was just an awesome job. So Dan is part of the IBM pre-sales technical support team, and he helps customers architect optimal solutions for IBM power systems that run IAIX and Linux. But Dan started his career in Rochester, the home of the AS400, supporting with the support center for IBM I customers. So he has a long history of IBM I specifically. He changed in 2000 to this particular role. He works with ISVs, independent software vendors, with their applications, such as JD Edwards, Oracle, and Enterprise One applications. So Dan's very familiar with I. He's got a lot of support people around him there in Rochester, and I'm in Rochester. It's just a great place to be. We've also got some other people. I think Mickey Sparks is on. He's going to help with questions. Mickey's actually a client technical specialist like myself. Long history with IBM I as well. So Mickey's going to help us out. And the presentation is on the wiki. And when this is all done, you can download the presentation materials off the wiki now. When this is all done, I will put the replay up there in the next day or so. So with that, Dan, welcome, and I'll let you take over.
Okay, thanks, Joe, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon for everybody that's on the phone or listening to the replay. Glad to do this and kind of kick off, as Joe said, the kind of IBM I version of the VUG. There's going to be a lot of content in here, and some of these could be own presentations, which may be good candidates for ones that Joe could have in the future. So I'll try in the next hour here, try and maybe catch you up if you haven't been following IBMI, and I'll try not to make too many assumptions of maybe what you've heard or what you haven't heard. So we'll start and go to the next slide. So hopefully, maybe you've been familiar, as Joe said, the AS100 started in 1988. So this is our kind of 30th anniversary, and we've kind of built up from the platform. To give you a little history, you probably, we've changed names a few times. Went to the I series in 2000. We had the E server system I there in a little bit. And then in 2008, we landed on IBMI. And so I think it's kind of a very strategic point, in our platform and our operating system to be unified, the P series, RISC 6000 AIX platform, Linux, IBMI AS400, all on the same platform. So hopefully, going forward, you kind of can recognize the value proposition of having power systems hardware with the IBMI operating system. You can, hopefully have seen our logo. So we're going on 10 years now in the new name. And so I guess I would also maybe use this opportunity to, really try and stress that, IBMI is the name of the operating system. This is what you see in our marketing literature. This is what you're going to see when you search for things. If you hopefully in your companies and as you're talking to customers and partners, hopefully you use the IBMI brand name, because I is the official name of the operating system. And just try and, sometimes people hear AS400 or they hear I series, and maybe they're thinking that's the old platform or legacy. And while those may have nice connotations, to a lot of us, we really want to be kind of strengthening on IBMI going forward, and there are some hopefully things I can show you here in the platform that make it, such a better platform. And I also want to stress the logo there. If you see the words for business, that was kind of a very key thing that we did, is when we added that for business, to really stress that this is, an application system running, business applications. So again, for these customers, you bought our box because it run a great operating system, a great application, and now it runs on great hardware. So you can see they're building up now the 30 years. So hopefully I'll talk more in a couple slides of some of the great things that we're going to do to really highlight the 30-year anniversary. So this slide just to emphasize, so that as a IBMI customer, or maybe prospective customer, that our hardware runs 3 operating systems. We run AIX, we run IBMI, we run Linux on the same platform. We have customers that run just single instance of IBMI on a small S814 or now S914 Power 9 system, or we have customers with hundreds, if not thousands, of LPARs partitions on their system running mixes of the 3 operating systems here. So it's a great that you can consolidate different workloads, and we're seeing a lot of you probably have seen some of our messaging from IBM on cognitive and artificial learning and deep learning. A lot of that is on our Linux operating system on the same platform. And then we're really but we're not forgetting a lot of the AIX and IBMI customers and all the great things that can run there. So this is probably the last slide I'll show with AIX and Linux, and the rest of them I'm going to focus on IBMI, but just to stress again that we can run all these operating systems on the same hardware platform. For anybody that maybe has snuck on, that hasn't really been familiar with the AS400 air quotes or IBMI architecture, just this one slide here kind of emphasizing the fact that some of our value propositions of the I, or integrated operating system, is the way we handle disk operating system, disk management, spreading data across all the disk arms, the security that we get from doing our object-based architecture, the built-in virtualization, to have with our work management architecture, to have multiple jobs and multiple segregation of workloads on the system. Again, kind of bundling this integrated, and then separation with this technology independent machine layer, across of the hardware. So again, kind of the hallmarks of our platform and the IBMI operating system. So here's one chart kind of showing our direction. So if somebody says, what are some of the things that we are trying to do, from an IBMI operating system platform and direction, you can see there that kind of first and foremost, a lot of it is we're built on applications, we're built on solutions. So we're trying to make sure our customers can take advantage of latest and greatest power systems hardware. So we announced Power 9 recently, and we're constantly coming up with new associated peripherals. But we have a very strong focus on the applications and trying to make sure customers can take advantage of that. And that second little bullet, they're talking about, choice, open platform. So a lot of people don't think of the I platform or I operating system as open, but all the things that we've done recently with open source software, and you can see some of the lists there that I'll highlight some of those later on in the presentation. MariaDB and Perl and Python and Git from a source control system. We're really trying to embrace these and make sure customers don't think of the IBM I operating system as just running legacy ArcBG and COBOL applications, but this is a great platform for all these new and emerging workloads and whatever's going to be coming down the road next. So kind of that last bullet there is it's focusing on the integrated promise. So we started as a very easy to use integrated operating system. We want customers to know that we have very high security, we are a very resilient operating system, and we're going to do what we can to make sure that the operating system can take advantage of everything that's in our IBM system storage and software portfolio. So every couple of years, we come out with a paper that is kind of a nice little deliverable that if you have somebody new in your company, some new C-level or CIO that is, from a maybe Wintel or Linux world, and what is this IBM I thing or this thing that you call AS400? It's kind of a nice little paper that has a kind of executive summary of what the brand's strategy is. So it's a little more talking and about how we fit in the power system platform and what our future is. So again, it's got a very nice kind of deliverable that you can give to people that question or are just kind of curious about what is this IBM I thing. IBM reorged a couple years ago.
Dan?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. So your slides are a little bit cut off on the right. I'm not sure if that shows that way on your screen, but the way it comes across on the webinar is just like the right side is kind of cut a little bit. Yeah.
Is that
sure if there's any?
Is that any different?
So, no, it doesn't look any different here. So, so I wasn't going to bother with it, but now with this little thing you have there, we're losing all the little circles. So like the two on the most right, we don't see. So, and me changing my screen size doesn't help any. Probably has to do with the window you're on or the way it's showing. Try doing a share and just try sharing that application, or is that what you did?
I did. Yeah, I'm just showing my application.
Okay, try doing share the screen and then just fill the screen with that application.
Where's share the screen, Al?
So up on the top of your thing under the play show button, there's a screen, there's a little pull down, it'll say screen. You do that pull down and you can say share my screen or show my application or whatever. Let's just take a minute here and see if we can fix it.
How do I share? He wants me to share this.
So in the upper part of your little control panel for the webinar, there's that big circle with the thing right underneath it. It'll say show, and underneath that it'll say screen, and there's a drop down under where it says screen. You see it?
I am not. Oh, you're right. I see the audience view. You're right. It looks like it's cutting out.
Yeah. So above the audience, above all those views, does it say? It should say a little tab for sharing at the top of your control panel there.
It does not. I see audience view, webcam, audio.
Okay, it's above webcam. It's the one above webcam. All right, it's not. It would be the first tab. I don't know why you're not seeing it. That's kind of weird that you're not seeing it.
I am not. And Al's right next to me.
Yeah.
Show.
Okay, tell you what. Let's try this. I'm going to make myself the presenter.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to make you the presenter again. Well, either that or I guess I could present. If it doesn't work here, I'll make myself the presenter.
Okay.
And then we'll do it that way. But let's just try you. So you, here. Okay. So you're the presenter again. So go ahead and now do you see that where you do the show?
Show my screen.
Yeah. So drop down and do the show your screen, and then just fill your screen with that application. There you go. Okay, good. Now just go into the view, change. Okay, there, much better. Thank you. That works.
Okay. All right, we will continue. All right, so as I was saying, IBM reorganized as an industry for a lot of our sales reps. So sometimes I get questions on, where are our IBM customers, what IBMI customers are in various industries, or just if you're an IBMI customer, you may be curious who else is in industry. So Help Systems does every year, for I think the last 4 or 5 years now, they do a marketplace survey. And this is hot off the press, the 2018 results. I saw these at the IBM TechU University last week, so I updated it from the 2017 version. So here's just kind of a nice little snapshot showing, where are some of the industries that the customers in the marketplace said that they were in, manufacturing, banking, distribution, and retail. So we fit. We don't play in every single space, but we definitely are in a lot of different spaces. So I just thought this was very interesting, and also maybe a nice little plug for Help Systems. They're a great ISV that have IBMI software applications and tooling. So if you go out to that link, you can download the whole presentation. It has tons of data and tons of different screens, and one of them is the one I'm going to show here next on the value or the return on investment that they see. So every year this has been in 92, 93, 94%. So you can see here again, it's almost 93%. So for the 600 plus customers that answered the survey, do they feel that they get a great ROI or a value for their server? And the answer is yes. And that matches what we see. IBM, we do studies every once in a while with various different companies, and going back all my time of all the different years, we could show you different reports from different companies. So here's one kind of fresh from last year. A company used to be called ITG, now they're known as Quark and Lepton. They have a very good paper that quantifies where they went out and they interviewed customers, and then they quantified what are they spending for different operating systems, different hardware platforms. And again, I could pick a chart from this deck, and I could go back a couple of years and pick a different paper that came out and show that IBMI customers running on Power hardware, since they tend to run with leaner staff, they tend to be they don't fail, they're very reliable, and so they tend to cost less to run over time. So again, this is another one of those good papers that if you have management or you're talking to somebody that why are we on this platform, we could talk all the great things about the operating system and the ease of use, but here's some great financial stuff that you can show people that, hey, this is hopefully validating what you already know as a customer or as a partner of IBM. Okay, so this is a chart that I built that was just kind of maybe kind of catching people up. So last year we did a bunch of things. We have technology refreshes. So you see TRs. We do them twice a year. So you can see we had some early in the year and later in the year, and I'll talk more about the later ones that we've already come out with this year. We announced some new offerings, some partnered with a company called Arcad related to RPG, which I'll talk about later. We kind of started the end of life or transition for IBMI 7.1, which I'll talk more about later. But hopefully, customers, if you're on 6.1, 7.1, hopefully you've got the message that 7.2 and 7.3 are kind of our mainstream operating systems that we're still enhancing and really going forward with. So 7.1 is kind of moving on the wayside. And in 2018, like I said, we've had one technology release already this year, mainly for Power 9 enablement, some other things, and then the 30th anniversary. And then the pie chart on the left is just a visual representation. If you look at IBMI, the operating system, you look at Power HA for IBMI, you look at Rational Developer for things that are associated with IBMI, they are growing within the IBM brand, the IBM Power System Software Revenue Organization. So this is, an operating system that's very key to IBM. It's very, it's growing and profitable at IBM. So that should, again, show you, as a customer, as a partner, that we are, investing in this, and we're going to be, enhancing this going forward. So this is not every once in a while you might hear, AS400, is that dead or is that dying? And it's like, well, no, IBMI, the more modern operating system version, is not going anywhere. And in fact, like I said, the last couple of quarters have had growth. So we're definitely, modernizing it and going forward with it. So we talked a couple of years about 30 years. So if you were around 5 years ago when we had the 25th anniversary, we kind of had a looking back. What have we done the last 25 years? Now with the 30-year anniversary, we're looking forward. So we're started things in April and are kind of come to head in June, which June of 1988 was when the official AS400 announcement came out. and we're going to hopefully have some good marketing. Sometimes we hear people say, "Oh, I never hear about IBM I never hear, I don't see it on the Super Bowl ads," and unfortunately, you're probably not. But we're going to be doing a pretty good, hopefully, press and marketing on the 30 years, and we're going to focus on maybe kind of two different things. One of them is these fresh faces. We hear a lot of times that IBM I is, oh, that's an old RPG person in the back end, and nobody young in college is learning it. And I think we're doing quite a bit with the academic initiative and working with colleges to make sure IBM I is well represented. But what we're highlighting the fact that there are a lot of younger people, coming in, working with IBM I, and doing great things with it. So we'll talk more about fresh faces, and then just again trying to make sure that we're showing customers that as they're thinking about mobile and cloud and analytics, that IBM I can play in those, and in some cases has great opportunities for customers to take advantage of things that maybe they didn't know about. So follow that website on the left there and kind of hopefully see what we're doing, and it help us celebrate 30 years of a great operating system. So here was just some of the things. If you saw back in October 17 in the IBM Systems magazine, which if you don't get, you can get for no charge by signing up. We had some talk about the fresh faces, people coming into companies that only had RPG and they didn't know RPG, but they were able to learn it, they were able to modernize it, and add open source to it, make connections to Watson, which I'll talk about shortly. Again, do these great things, and when we hopefully get these people in, we don't come in there and scare them and show them green screen. We show them modern graphical interfaces. We show them open source, and we show them all these great things that the platform can do. Okay, I mentioned Watson, so Watson wasn't just Jeopardy. Well, Watson is, if you hear Watson, kind of think, services and APIs, which is kind of in the upper right-hand corner. There's lots of different, technologies and capabilities of it, and we used to have something that was under the brand name of Bluemix. Now they've bundled it under IBM Cloud. So if you hear Bluemix or IBM Cloud, they're kind of analogous. But we spent last year, the IBM I development organization brought in customers and partners and showed them how they could take their applications and they could actually connect them to Watson services to enhance, modernize, whatever word you want to use, take advantage of some different capabilities that they don't have just on the operating system. So I think you'll see more of that coming forward of, how can we, take this great stuff, the great applications that we have in COBOL and RPG and now open source, and how can we extend and enhance them with Watson services. So here's one company, I think it's pronounced URI. They're Belgian, where they have a manufacturer of furniture. And if you look at that last bullet, they basically took Watson or Watson Safe Services or APIs, and they connected to them to help take their application, which was built on open source. This is not a RPG application, it was an open source application on IBM I, and give additional functionality through some of the Watson capabilities. So again, we're going to try and highlight these, and I think again you'll see more of these with the 30th anniversary. We're going to have more kind of a drumbeat of different proof points, I guess, of showing. So this is just one great example of a modern application on IBM I, leveraging Watson. Okay, so I've kind of bounced around from different places. So this is a chart that a lot of customers, like to see of, okay, well, what's IBM I? What's the roadmap? Which way are their arrows going? So here's a chart that shows that, we've had 7.1 to 7.2 to 7.3. Sometimes you could see there we had a little gap between 7.1 and 7.2, but the more normal heartbeat has been more of every 2 years. We do it when we have major enhancement that we can't do in technology refreshes, but we do twice yearly technology refreshes, which is new functions for customers on a given release. And we have 2 major releases under development. So you'll see iNext and iNext plus 1. So if you come to Rochester and you had a briefing or you wanted us to come and talk to you, we can kind of under non-disclosure tell you about some of the great stuff that we're doing in future releases. But customers, once you get to 7.2 or 7.3, you can get new feature functionality through these technology refreshes, which is not a new thing. A lot of other operating systems have updates, and we call them technology refreshes. So speaking of technology refreshes, I wanted to highlight this wiki page that we have, that if you are ever curious of what's in a particular technology refresh, or if you kind of look at the bottom, for some of the different categories. So if you're looking for save, restore, backup recovery topics, database topics, there's a whole laundry list of things that you can search for and look through to see what's new or just answer questions. So it's a really great resource. I don't see a lot of people probably using as much as they should to really see what is the platform doing. To highlight just a couple, I got a couple slides here showing some of the technology refreshes. So I mentioned we just had 7.3 TR4 and 7.2 TR8 come out. And of course, this is a good match for our Power 9 scale-out servers. This is kind of our entry line of servers. But then we also did some enhancements to installing IBM I using USB media, which I'll talk about shortly, and some other great things you can see there. A new RPG operation. We enhanced the IBM I Access Client Solutions product, which I'll also talk about. So again, a lot of good material on this slide deck I want to talk about. But this is some key things that we have, and I put some hot links on a lot of my slides where you can go click and you can read more about these technology refreshes. This is another example of things we do in the operating system and the things we do with associated hardware. So we in our latest technology refreshes, we had an enhancement for those customers that are looking at flash storage. So we offer SSD or flash options inside the system. We also offer external flash storage, what we call IBM Flash systems. So in our latest technology refresh, we added a new unmap function, which will, for a lot of our customers, give them better performance and better things like a disk initialization time. So again, there's a lot of things that you'll get twice yearly in these technology refreshes. And then this one, I think my coworker Bob Schuster has done quite a bit on this. He did a presentation last week at TechU, and I think Joe's going to have him do one of the next upcoming bug sessions on this. But we're with DVDs kind of going by the wayside of some of our systems, and a lot of our customers ask about USB options, USB drive options. We've really tried to enhance this to the point where you can go out to as a customer, you can go out to the ESS website, and instead of just seeing ISO images for IBM I microcode and operating systems, you can now see these .img files. And we have included an actual program that you can use to take these files and actually essentially burn them onto the USB, so that you could stick the USB in, and on a Power 9, when you boot up the server, if it sees the microcode there on the USB stick, you can boot from there. So it's another alternative to DVD and to tape. So again, as you might have heard, so Power 9 servers, we do not ship an internal DVD, but we can definitely get an external DVD. So DVDs aren't going away. We still have a lot of customers that love DVD, especially from an IBM I standpoint. But I think you're going to hear a lot of things about using USB media to install IBM I microcode operating system and HMC. Okay, here's another chart. So kind of showing roadmap of operating systems dropping off and operating systems coming. I get requests for, okay, you've talked about iNext, when is iNext coming? And we haven't really given you a date of when it's coming, but this is by the most close thing I've ever seen published from the IBM I development organization that kind of hints at when we think that we're going to have the next two future operating systems. So don't take this as a plan of record, but you could definitely use this as a pretty good guide of when we're thinking. So you can see there 7.2 and 7.3 are our mainstream operating systems. We have 3 older ones that we're kind of trying to move people away from, and then again we'll have some great functionality and technology coming in the future. Okay, so here's just some more specific dates matching to that last slide. So as I mentioned, 5.4.6.1, they've ended support, and they're getting close to both ending extended support. So 7.1 is the latest news from last year, where we kind of ended marketing, so we stopped selling it. And then the key date, about a week ago, April 30th, we stopped supporting it, so premier support or normal support. And so now, if you're running IBM i 7.1 and you want support or SWAMA, you have to be in extended support. And IBM does charge a price premium for extended support. So a lot of I've had some customers get maybe a little sticker shock on staying on 7.1, which, hopefully, again, I've maybe told you some stuff that 7.2 and 7.3 is where we're having all the great stuff and all the feature functions coming out. So hopefully you can make a plan to get there. And with N-2 support, if you're at 5.4, you can get to 7.1, which then you could get to 7.2 or 7.3. But if you're already at 7.1, you can jump right to 7.2 or 7.3. So you can if your ISV applications can support it, if you need help with that, we'd be glad to help with you, make the plan to get to 7.2 or 7.3. This is kind of a busy chart. I took one that I saw and kind of added some different notes around it, but it's kind of helpful for if you know what model you're running and you're curious, will my model run, a newer operating system, or maybe kind of give you some insights of maybe when operating system supports will drop off. So you can see Power 9 hardware, the ones we announced just this year, the scale out is 7.2 and 7.3 only. And you can see the technology refresh levels needed to support the Power 9 hardware. We're still selling Power 8, so Power 8 can run 7.1, 7.2, or 7.3. And then we can, again, going back in time, you can see the different releases. I presented this kind of presentation a couple weeks ago, as Joe mentioned, and I had somebody come up to me and said, well, iNext, you've kind of hinted that that's coming maybe relatively soon. What will that support or not support? And we haven't officially said what it's going to support, but I think if you look at this chart, you can kind of infer that since we're selling Power 8 and we're selling Power 9, that if we were to come out with a future operating system release, it probably would only run on hardware that we're currently selling. So hopefully you can maybe read between the lines of what I just said, that nothing's official until it's announced, but I think you'd be a pretty good bet the future release will only run on hardware that we're currently supporting. So again, if you have any questions on your particular model or your particular solution, there's great people in the field like Joe and Mickey and myself, we'll be glad to help you. Okay, just a couple slides on the Power 9 hardware. I can't go through the whole presentation without showing you some of our new family picture. So we have a Linux older model on the left, and then for an IBM I, you can run on any of the 5 servers there on your right. Hopefully maybe you've learned our new naming convention. So the S stands for scale out, the 9 stands for Power 9. The next digit is either 2U or 4U, or sockets, sorry, 2 sockets, 1 socket, and then the last digit is 2U or 4U high. IBM I customers tend to love the 4U system, so our S914, S924, and then previously the S814, S824 were very popular, with IBM I customers. And then, like I said, we have seen some traction with the 2U models, but just definitely not as much as the 4U models. A lot of customers just like the more capability to have more disk and more I/O in those. So again, any questions, we'll be glad to help. And then this is a Dan chart. So the last chart was the marketing chart. This is my chart that I created because a lot of times I get customers asking me, okay, the Power 9 model, which software tier does that run? Which from IBM I licensing, that's a big difference. So is it a P05, P10? If that customer asks me, okay, Power 8, Power 9, what's the difference in CPW, commercial processing workload, which is kind of our which is our benchmark that we run on our servers. So this is a little chart that shows you, just from a CPW standpoint, where I could find a like-to-like comparison, Power 8 to Power 9, what's the difference in CPW, which I think is, pretty impressive for customers. And I've seen higher numbers based on the workload. And then I have some different nomenclature there. So it's kind of a nice little chart to help you as you're maybe, if you're on Power 7, Power 8, looking at Power 9, this will kind of help you fit, where I need based on a CPW standpoint, how many cores you may need. And then we can run these through configurations and show you exactly. Okay, change away a little bit from hardware. Now let's go operating system. So I just have one slide on 7.2. So 7.2 has been out quite a while. Maybe you've seen the messaging, or maybe you haven't, but we did have a few cool things like the rolling column access control, or some people call it RCAC, where you can, really from a security standpoint, lock things down. And then we continued our drumbeat on enhancing RPG and kind of, doing more of the open source. I don't want to focus on 7.2. I really want to focus on 7.3. So here's the first of a couple different what we call marketing tiles showing that, hey, if you haven't seen IBM I 7.3, maybe you didn't know what was in it, now's a good time to look at it, especially if you're at IBM I 7.1. And this is the second one, a little kind of marketing slide that shows you what's in there. So I'd like to focus on maybe some of those specifics, being the technical guy. So DB2 temporal support. So this is a kind of a neat thing that was in 7.3, which I'll talk about in the next slide, but ability to start maintaining data for tables and then be able to go back in time and run queries. The third one there, the authority collection, to be able to actually see what people run traces on their system to see how are they getting access to their system, and maybe they're getting in, they have the right authority, but maybe they're getting in a way that you didn't think they were going to do it. And then again, focusing on modernizing applications, RPG, and open source. So temporal. So when I first heard that, I was trying to figure out, why would I want this? And if you kind of look at the diagram on the right, what it is you take a table that you have today, and you essentially start, you create another table that is creating history or versioning information. And so you can't just load 7.3 and then magically temporal support's going to work, because you don't have any temporal data. But over time, you now will have data, and you could be doing like this next slide here. So you could actually say, okay, I've been running for a while. Let's say I put 7.3 on, I've been running for a couple of years, and I want to see, okay, what as of this particular timestamp, what did my employee table look like? You can at the bottom of there, or you could say, I'm going to set the time, and now anything I do from that point in time is going to be using that particular date. So I think that's kind of a cool standpoint of, you can look at the data that you have, but you can also look at the the side data, or the data that you maybe had previously. Okay, I also mentioned this one. So we had a lot of customers. I found this very interesting to go in and actually see. I'm going to actually run essentially a trace or a collection for a user, and then using a graphical interface or SQL, you can actually see, okay, while I was running the trace, what did they access, and how did they access it? Were they access it because they had specific authority to the object? Did they get it because they used an adopted authority? And again, maybe this is totally expected and normal, but maybe this was, they're getting authority to something that you didn't expect them to do, or they were just touching things that you didn't think they were touched. So I think that I kind of chalked this under the, kind of neat to know, and maybe you could use it to look for maybe some nefarious things going on in your box that you didn't know, because you just didn't have this visible before. Whereas now with 7.3, you can take a look at it. Hopefully, maybe this is another one of those messages I hope you've heard over many years, that Query for 100 was a great application, green screen application way back when, but we realized that customers were taking our great IBM DB2 data, and they were sucking it off the system, and then they were putting it into data warehouses and using spreadsheets to try and get information and value out of the data that they had. And so IBM partnered with a company called Information Builders, and we bundled it as an IBM product called DB2 Web Query. It's for a customer that has Query for 100, you can probably get this product for no charge, assuming you get some SWAMA. And since that initial release of that product has come out, they have, again, Information Builders has kept on adding new neat functions to it to really web modernize it, mobile analyze it. They've created functions like this. You can see on the slide here, data migrator, to kind of help you extract, transfer, and load data from different data sources, both into and out of IBM I. So I think that the key message I'd like to leave you is, if you haven't thought about analytics on your IBM I data, or you're still using Query for 100, this is a great tool that maybe you're not taking advantage of. And so you can, on this page here, there's an email that you can send your name to, and they've created a kind of an easy install guide, because they're really trying to get customers to really take advantage of this. Because again, we think that data is a commodity that is very personal for a lot of people, and there's probably just a lot of value that you could get from it if you knew how to do it, and you had a very easy to use graphical interface. So DB2 Web Query, lots of great functionality. I hope that you take advantage to learn more about it. So I mentioned a couple times, RPG and open source. We're an application platform. Application system 400. It's right there in the name. You bought it because you were running a great application. And when we came out, 30 years ago, we had a great list of applications that you can run, and we still have a great list of applications that can run on the platform. But we're hoping that by continuing to support what we support today, and looking for the opportunity for languages in the future, we can continue to allow customers to take the RPG and COBOL applications that they have and enhance them, at the same time bring on new applications. So here's kind of a busy chart, but hopefully kind of shows you that on the left we have some of our more traditional or native applications that can run out of the box. So those aren't going away. RPG, COBOL, Java applications. We're definitely seeing a lot of uptick in open source, which again, if you just look at the industry, and there's just so many things out there that that are based on open source languages and would run great on that platform, since maybe a lot of times those things could leverage data and applications that are already on the system. And then we're looking for opportunities on the right there where when we could partner. So like SAP HANA, good run. So this is kind of a nice little chart showing you everything that you could do. So here's another little marketing tiles, again, trying to hopefully point out the fact that, 7.3, we did a lot of neat stuff with Git, which is kind of an open source version control system, and Orion. And then if you look at this chart on the bottom, a lot of people I've talked to didn't realize that, maybe they've heard of our, IBM says they're doing open source, but I really don't understand what that means. One of the kind of neat things that we've done is we've created this license program object that is called Open Source for I. You can see the number there, that you can download this, and it has these open source, right on the system, so you can get them on there. And then we keep on adding, option 15. 16. It's gonna never, every time I look, there always seems to be a new one that they're adding. So this is how we're getting a lot of these, onto the system. So if you haven't taken advantage of looking at these, or you thought, I have somebody in my company that's doing MySQL, maybe I should get MySQL on IBM and show it to them and see how they could take advantage of it. You could start by getting this LPO on your system, and then just show it to them. Give the person on your company the screen and say, here, here's a command prompt. Here's where MySQL is located. Take advantage of this, leverage this. So TRs, hopefully I've got the message there that technology refreshes are definitely how we're delivering new feature functions. So this latest 7.3 TR4, we did, you can see at the bottom one, we can have both RPG and CL source can be managed, by the Git. So we're seeing a lot of customers from a version control using that and using stream files to compile. So, I'm not an application developer by trade, but when I show these slides to people that are application developer, there's really some neat things there. And then RPG, people hear RPG, they think, they fear, and maybe they have bad connotations of what it is, but it's a very modern application. We over the years we've enhanced it. We've added freeform RPG to it, so it looks more like a more modern programming languages. And then recently here, you can see highlighted in red, we added JSON support. So modern web scripting, data interchange. We've added that into RPG, so a lot of the customers can take advantage of the applications that they have with, again, more modern tooling and more modern days of exchanging data. And so as one of the first charts I showed you there, one of the things that the new TRs released was the data into element. So as you can take a JSON or a CSV file and get it into an RPG variable. Okay, the next two slides. So, you maybe heard me talk about RPG a couple times. So last year we partnered with a company called Arcad. They had some great tooling for taking your fixed format RPG and get it into more of a free form or modern. And again, if we talk about, when we're looking at, younger people and people out of college, they want to, while they may not know RPG, they could probably program an RPG if it's more in a construct that they're familiar with. So this Arcad converter is a product that you can leverage to help get your RPG into the more modern format if you didn't want to do it manually. And then the next page, Arcad Observer is a product that you can use to get a visibility into your system to see kind of how it's laid out. Okay, how about tooling? We talk about green screen tooling. A lot of people love PDM, SEU. Our large user group, they come here multiple times each year, and for years, the IBM team would say, hey, are you using Rational Developer for I? It's kind of our modern Eclipse-based workbench for doing application development, and everybody's like, no, we love SEU, we love PDM, which works, but it hasn't been enhanced for a very, very long time, and people, once they get to the new GUI interface, they become more productive. So when we look at RDI, which is, again, kind of a hard to see screenshot, but this is just a very modern interface. I mean, it has different colors for the different variables. It gives you error checking. You can have different tabs. You can be doing multiple things at the exact same time. It's got context assist, so as you start typing something, it pre-fills what it thinks it's typing, and has emulating support. And, it's language specific. So if you're doing RPG or COBOL, it knows which language you're in. So again, this is one of those products that just keeps on getting enhanced. So I think we're at the tipping point now when we survey, again, like our large user group customers, and we say, okay, how many people are still using our PDM SCU? We're seeing the tipping point where they realize once they get to a more modern infrastructure to do their development, that they do become more productive than the old tooling that they were familiar with. Okay, speaking of old tooling, so iSeries Access for Windows, a lot of customers, runs on Windows, but, maybe people haven't, quite appreciated that, the last Windows operating system that this thing was supported on was Windows 8. And in the last few releases, so 7.2 and 7.3, it's been a skip ship product, so we really haven't enhanced it. We just kind of shipped it with the product, so it hasn't really changed. But as customers are moving to different platforms like Linux, and as they're moving to Windows 10, this thing, as a Windows installable, just wasn't keeping up. So just recently, you can see here on April 30th, we kind of made the formal kind of declaration that iSeries Access for Windows is going away. So about a year from now, it's going to be out of service, and we're trying to get people to go to the IBM Access Client Solutions product. So ACS, if you haven't heard about it, you really should. Whoops, I think I did something. Did I lose you, Joe?
No, I'm here.
Okay. So let me go to ACS on the next screen here. So ACS, App Client Solutions, so it's a lightweight Java-based application. It can run on multiple platforms. You could run it on you could put it on a memory key, so if a USB key stick, so if your company allows that, you could take it with you, plug it in as you go to different workstations. Like I said, it runs on multiple platforms. And this is a product that we're enhancing 2-3 times a year. And so a lot of customers, I was just at a show a couple weeks ago, and somebody asked me about doing something with 50 to 50 screens. So I asked them, were they using iSeries Access for Windows, or they're using ACS? And they weren't using ACS. And when I showed them how they can create watermarks, and they can do recording, and they can do all this feature function in ACS, which again they're entitled to for no charge, they were very excited. So I included a couple links here on the screen where you can go out, you can download, you can look at the page, you can see what's out there, and you can directly download it. It uses the same iSeries Access license that you have on the system, but it's again the more modern, lightweight interface.
So Dan, we didn't see your window move to the ACS screen. You're still stuck at iAccess for Windows. I don't think it advanced for you.
Yeah, it says screen sharing is now paused.
Okay, so now so you just stop there, back at the beginning, and now it's just black. Right, now I can see. Okay, now we're at the
ACS. All right, I'm sorry about that. All right, so again, this is the graphical, and again, this is another one, Joe. I think we could have a whole presentation on Access Client Solutions and all the great benefits of how you can manage your operating system, manage your IBM I interface. So just as a couple things I wanted to show were built in with ACS. So this is more from a database standpoint. So Visual Explain, we had some customers still. They stuck with the iSeries Access for Windows product because it had very rich, robust database feature functionality. Where now, we pretty much have got 99.9% of all that functionality into ACS, where you can do all that. So there should be, stated another way, there's the inhibitors of why you should not be moving to ACS for all IBM I systems management. It should be almost nil. And then services. So you can see here, we can. You can do run SQL scripts within the product, and then we have all these built-in services that we include, and we keep on enhancing with database service packs and with TR releases that you can do to do functions on your system, all built into ACS. And then another little benefit of if you're running ACS, and of course using the IBM Navigator for I Windows-based product, once you sign on to the product, you can see here kind of on the left, you can click on the Navigator for I, you can connect. Once you're logged on, then now you can manage your system. So it's nice that you don't have to have multiple applications. You're kind of through one unified product. You could be doing all availability of systems management. So kind of on the vein of IBM Navigator for I, there's lots of great functionality if you haven't seen. So just two that I thought might be kind of interesting for people would be performance standpoint. So there we can set monitors. Those were things that you could do in the iSeries Access for Windows products that initially you couldn't do in the new Navigator, but now you can. So you can look at CPU, you can look at jobs, you can have all these metrics on your system. There's a function called Performance Data Investigator for I, or PDI, that you can look at all the collection of services data. In addition to, if you can kind of see on the left, just the normal work management, looking at jobs, looking at databases, looking at journals, looking at all the different things on your system. So hopefully you're using the new IBM Navigator for I product. And then mobile, a lot of people have tablets, they have iPad, iPhones, they have Android devices that are doing mobile. So a lot of those monitors that you've created, you can access through the iAccess mobile product, which is just another function that is out there and kind of built in, with your IBM iAccess license. So, if you haven't aware of this might be something you might find interesting. Okay, another thing that we had announced last year was IBM Cloud Storage Solutions. So this is not for probably really large customers, but for the smaller customers where they're using backup recovery media services and they want to get images off their system. And you've heard, this is probably the first time I've said the word cloud. If you wanted to put your data out onto the cloud, there's some various options for you to kind of have this happen more automated or seamlessly. So if you have any questions, you can look at some of these links, or we can get somebody to have a little more further conversation for you. But this is kind of a neat way to get some data to another location off your system. Virtual tape libraries. So we had a lot of customers that have invested in our Protect tier option for virtual tape libraries and data deduplication. Recently this year, IBM announced that they're kind of end-of-lifing the Protect tier. So for those, and Protect tier had probably 20–30% of their install base, as IBM I customers, so it was pretty popular. And so we've had some requests from customers of, okay, what does this mean to me? So the nice thing is, they're still supporting the customers and they're still giving them, options to grow and be supported. But we've also announced very shortly, you can see at the bottom link there, that we partnered with DSI, Dynamic Solutions, that had a very nice product, very IBM I integrated and friendly as kind of the replacement option. So for those customers running Protect tier, this DSI would be a very natural alternative. It has ways to get the data from Protect tier into DSI, or if you're a new customer kind of looking at a virtual tape library solution, we would promote you, to have you come out and take a look at the DSI solution. You might have seen this. We try not to make too much of this, but you might have seen some of the news about Spectre and Meltdown and IBM's response. So we have a couple different websites here that kind of give the official language of what we have done, and so we have created both patches for hardware or firmware, and we've created some IBM specific PTFs that fix these known vulnerabilities. So if you haven't heard of them, or you were kind of curious what IBM's response was, I guess I suggest to go out and read these links and see what we've done and what all our options are. Okay, the next two slides are some different links. We tried to maybe overwhelm you with a bunch of different places you can go, but I hope you may find this chart deck useful in the future to look at. Here's some blogs that people have. If you're somebody that does LinkedIn, I just throw out a couple different LinkedIn groups that have some active conversation going between people either looking for help or asking various questions. Joe mentioned that last week was TechU, so IBM has a technical university a couple times a year. So you can see at the bottom that the next one is coming back in October in Florida. There's ones worldwide, so I didn't list them all, but I give you the website. So if you're not from the United States, you can definitely find one. And I highly recommend these. They have IBM I, AIX, Linux, cognitive, and general topics. So there's, I attended last week with Joe and a bunch of people from my team, and I had more sessions that I could possibly attend. So just lots of great content. IBMI Focused Education. So Common is a great organization for IBMI Focused Education. A lot of IBM people and people on my team presenting. So that's coming up here in a few weeks in San Antonio. So I'd strongly encourage, if there's still time yet, if you'd like to go learn more about Common and get some education there. And then user groups, just like any other thing, user groups now are being called meetups, but I think the thing is the same, is to kind of share knowledge with your peers. So here was a list that I had found that had listed a whole bunch of different organizations. So maybe based on where you're located, or you maybe didn't know that you had one that you could kind of network, and so some of them are very formal and have lots of education, some were very informal, but again, this is a way for you to talk to your peers and talk to the people on, what are they doing with IBMI, and maybe you've heard something here that you might want to find out if somebody else is doing something similar like that. Okay, so kind of the fire hose of education there. I was trying for about an hour, and I did that, of lots of great information. Where my team and lots of others are here to help you of all kinds of different topics. Maybe something here got you curious about from an IBMI standpoint. Maybe you're curious about IBMI working with a feature function on Power 9 or rated peripheral, where we're glad to help. So maybe, Joe, I'll pass it back to you and see if any questions we could answer, or anything that some of the other panelists haven't answered.
Okay, so so Mickey has been busy answering questions in the background. So thanks a lot, Mickey. Appreciate that. I'm looking for, there's some discussion on, I think it was ACS and being able to do management with ACS. I don't know, see if Mickey actually, I don't think Mickey's on the phone with us though, so he's not going to comment on it, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, okay, there you are, Mickey, sure.
I'm checking with Tim to see the pieces that the one individual said were missing, to see what the plans are.
Okay.
Tim's usually, if there's plans, he'll let us know.
Yep, and this is Dan. So the Tim Rowe here in Rochester, ROWE, he kind of owns application development, so questions related to RDI, RPG, the ACS product. He's a great resource that we can bring to bear for any questions that people have. So that's the right question.
Okay, so there have been a couple of questions on bringing IBM I to the E950. So as you know, we don't have IBM I on the 850. Right now, there are no plans to bring it to the E950 either, so we'll probably keep with pretty much the same strategy. Now, the 950 isn't announced yet, so nothing written in stone on that. But as far as we know, there aren't any plans to bring it out on the 950 either.
Yep,
if this is a really big deal to you, then write a note and to your sales rep or somebody in IBM, and it can get forwarded. But just let you know what I've heard so far.
Yep, and this is Dan. So my extra commentary on that is, it's really been, mainly a testing statement, but a lot of it is because of product positioning. Our S824, S924 can really grow quite big, and then now, with our plans for, the high-end systems, which we haven't announced anything yet, but we've kind of been pretty loose in some of our conversation. We're going to start as a single node system for our enterprise class hardware. So it kind of, do we really need, that particular IBM I run on that particular model? Like you said, we didn't have it on the 850. We didn't have too many people complaining. So it's, you're right. We'd love to hear the feedback, but right now the plan of record is to not.
So there's a question on here, Dan, how about a P15 S922, max 12 cores per IBM I LPAR? So the S922 limits IBM I to 4 cores, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So what we did is, for the 2U systems, so if you look at like the S9 S922, the S822, a lot of our kind of the value proposition that we saw was from a lot of the managed service providers. They wanted a lot of the density of our system. So we initially came out with, these had to be managed under VIOS. They were limited to 2 cores per partition, and then based on feedback, we increased that to 4 cores per partition. And so that seems been, we can have multiple partitions of 4 cores, so you're not limited to just one, but you can have, are limited to 4 cores under VIOS. And so when we came out with the S922, we kept with the same kind of, I guess, marketing and limitations and value proposition of it. So if you have any questions, let us know, what you'd want to see differently. But right now, that's kind of the way the marketing and the brand has decided to position the 2U model.
Okay, so there was a question, I don't know, did it go away? Oh, lug. So you mentioned several things. Great that you mentioned those, Dan. Somebody said you didn't put lug in there. And so I'll tell you what, I'll let you say a few words about lug.
Sure. So lug is our large users group. So we have a very active organization that caters to larger organizations. And if you're curious, we'd be glad to get you information on if you're a larger customer on what it is. And it's a great deal. They come to Rochester 3 times a year, which says a lot because they come in January when it's pretty cold here, and so a lot of them get a little shock of all the snow and cold that we have. But each lug, they have a topic, so application development, strategy, systems management, and IBM does sessions to the customers, and the customers come back and they give us a lot of feedback of what they would like to see as a high-end customer. So I didn't have, there's a slide that sometimes I present that says, where does IBMI get our feedback? And we get it from Common, we get it from Lug, we get it from requests for enhancements, RFEs. So IBM has a website that if you think, I wish IBMI could do this, you can go out there and you can search for open RFEs to see if one matches what you have, and then you could say I'd also like that, or if you find something you want to enter something new. So Lug is another one that gives us lots of great feedback, and so a lot of our small and medium customers benefit from feature functionality that get put into the operating system based on the fact of what Lug. So Lug's a two-way street. IBM confidentially shares stuff with them, and then Lug comes back and shares stuff with us. So yeah, if it's a great organization. I mentioned a couple times because we hear some great feedback from them on how they want to manage the system and what feature functions they'd like to see.
I'm going to let you handle this question too, Dan. This has to do with the impact of performance on the patches for the Spectre meltdown. And have we published anything? Do we intend to publish anything?
So as I mentioned on the one slide, we didn't. It's kind of when we get the questions about the Spectre meltdown, we point to the one website of what we can say and what the known features are. It's not when a lot of us were also curious about the effects. So when IBM has a public document where we list all the performance numbers from a RPerf, which is an AIX benchmark, and a CPW, which is the IBMI benchmark, and we republished results for the Power 8 systems, with the fixes on the system. And so people went out and did their own little math, and I did the same thing. I created a little spreadsheet where I plugged in the previous Power 8 numbers and the new Power 8 numbers to see what the difference would be, from a CPW standpoint. It was roughly around, 5.5 to 6% degradation with the fixes, and then the Power 9 systems all ship with those enhancements right into the operating system. In the ASMI interface, we do give the customers the option to turn off the fixes if they so want to do that, but we definitely ship our systems with that enabled. So again, we don't publish the number, but through our own analysis, we've all come up with that it's been about a 6% effect, which is great, I guess, in a way, because if you look at some of the Intel numbers, when they kind of came out, they were double digits and a lot higher. So our impact was a lot less.
Yep. Let's see. I'm going to let you handle this one too, although it's pretty. Any plans to keep the classic interface on the HMC for Power 9? No, there isn't.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
and why? You know, actually, let me say this: from what I've heard, with the enhancements to the newer GUI, and they've been making it better all the time. It really is, once you get used to it, very nice. But maybe you have more comments on that, or even Alan could comment on that.
Yeah, no, so that's exactly correct. So we gave customers for a couple releases the choice to switch between the classic UI and the enhanced UI on the HMC, but now your only choice is the new interface. And just like you said, Joe, customers, a lot of them balk at it because it's different. They haven't had to learn it, so they kind of stuck with the old. And it's almost like the PDM RDI kind of analogy, where you know what you know and you know how to use it, but then when IBM, we didn't just change it because we wanted to change it. We changed it because we got feedback from customers on how do we make things different? How do we create tasks that make sense? And so we tried to. That's why some of the cases it's a lot different, because it is different. We tried to make it more modern. And so no, we're not going back. But they are definitely taking feedback. If customers say, I liked it this way, or if it could be better if you did it this way, they're very open to making changes. But most customers are just like you said, when they want to get to it and learn it. Some may grumble that it's not better, but in a lot of cases it is a lot better.
All right, so I'll throw this other one at you. We're whittling these down pretty good. Where are you seeing current growth, domestic or global? Do you know anything about current growth, Dan?
I don't know if I see. If I don't think I have the visibility to that. That'd be a good question for somebody in the brand management. I can definitely say that we see. I feel repeated times that places like Italy, places like China, they buy a lot of these small systems, and there's a lot of ISVs that have very niche applications that are growing. So I don't think I can really fully answer the question, but I definitely see pockets of where we're growing.
All right. And I don't really see. And Mickey, do you have anything to add in any of this?
No, Dan's doing just fine.
Okay. Actually, I'm just trying to see if there's any new questions, stuff that we haven't really touched on yet. I don't think we need to talk about that. We talked about lug. Somebody wants Alan to present this topic at the Q user group in Minneapolis next fall. We talked about the 922s. All right, you know what? I think got that. I think we pretty much whittled down the questions. So let's wrap up here. First of all, Mickey, thanks for answering all the questions in the background. Really appreciate it. I think it helps things just flow smoothly, and it's nice when people send in a question. A lot of times I can't get to them, and the speaker's busy. We don't like to interrupt too much, so that really helps a lot. Thanks. I want to tell everybody, when you leave here, the little survey will pop up. I know this is the first IBM I group, so please, put in some stuff. If you have other IBM I specific topics you'd really like to see us cover, please put that in. If they're not IBM I specific, that's great. I'll add them to my other list as well. So the more feedback we get, the better job we'll do. And with that, you know what, Dan, I just want to say thank you very much for doing this. I know I kind of hit you up last week for can you do it this week, and that was pretty short notice, but I really appreciate you coming through with that.
No problem. Glad to help.
And with that, everybody, I want you to have a great month, and you'll be seeing other invites from me for the next Power Systems virtual user group. And we'll close it with that.
Okay, yeah.